Hello, and welcome to On the Agenda, a bi-monthly podcast by the City of Reno that quickly updates you on actions taken at recent council meetings and checks in with various departments to keep you up to date with happenings within the halls of City Hall. I'm Victoria from the City of Reno's communications team, filling in for AJ. With me is Assistant City Manager Norma Santoyo. Hello, Norma.
Hello, Victoria. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, it's such a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure for me to be here too. So right before we dive into our main topic, can we get a little recap of some of the highlights that happened from the January 28th City Council meeting?
Absolutely. Council had another very busy agenda, but we'll hit the highlights for you today. So first, Council accepted almost $600,000 in grants from the state of Nevada and the U.S. Department of Transportation to support a variety of programs at the Reno Police Department. The Reno Police Department also accepted a grant from Grace Church for $25,000 to support the mobile outreach safety team. We are incredibly grateful for the generosity. Second, there was a contract approved for $1.9 million for Q&D construction for the Retract Trench Rehabilitation Project. That is important work to ensure infrastructure is well kept for the Downtown Rail Trench project. Lastly, Council had a hearing regarding a request for a master plan amendment and zoning change related to the Lake Ridge Golf Course. In the hearing, the Council approved an ordinance adopting a master plan amendment and zoning map amendment for the proposed development. This approval is still contingent on the master plan amendment conformance review by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission and a subsequent tier change approval by the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Governing Board. That is a lot. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All great stuff. And for our listeners, if you want to read more about these agenda items or topics, you can go to reno.gov/news and click the most recent council highlights post. While we had many important items at the recent council meeting, we also had a big ticket item on the Reno Redevelopment Agency agenda. It's really time that we talk baseball, America's favorite pastime. And joining us today is Assistant City Manager Ashley Turney, who brought forward this really exciting item to council about securing the future of Reno Aces at Greater Nevada Field. Welcome back to On the Agenda, Ashley.
Thank you so much, Victoria. This is my second time on the podcast now. My debut was back in November when Jackie was out, so I'm nearly a regular.
We loved having you on the show, and we're glad that we didn't scare you and you came back. We love it. We love it. So let's jump in right with the basics. Can you give us a little background about this item and how we got here?
Yes, this deal is actually incredibly complex. You've probably heard me say that I have multiple 6-inch binders in my office containing all of the original documents around this deal. Reconstructing the deal and the understanding of a nuance of a 20-year-old deal takes quite a bit of time and detail, so I'll try my best to take tens of thousands of pages and distill it down. Back in 2006, the city was interested in bringing a AAA baseball team to the City of Reno so we could help focus on economic development in our downtown core. Through that process, we partnered with developer Herb Simon, who actually was partial owner of the Aces and full owner today, to bring them in and build Greater Nevada Field. We inked that deal back in 2007, which was part of a much larger deal to create a baseball district and really expand our redevelopment area. This happened and they started constructing the stadium right in the middle of the Great Recession. Reno was hit harder and longer than most places in the country, but despite that, they actually opened the field, and opening baseball was April of 2009, right in the middle of that recession. The other pieces of the deal really started falling apart because of that recession, and we had an original obligation to the developer to pay $50 million towards the construction of the stadium, and we were supposed to pay $2.5 million a year, and we were unable to meet that financial obligation. So by 2012, the developer came forward to us and asked us to reconsider and try to make good on the original debt that we owed. They agreed to create some updates to some of the contracts and to take a reduction in the amount we owed to them, and we agreed to pay $30 million over 30 years instead of the original 50. Through this process, though, we realized that there's a misalignment between some of those contracts. The Aces were actually only obligated to pay through 2029. However, we have this financial obligation through 2043. That creates a significant misalignment. So here we are now, 20 years later, trying to clean up and find a way to secure baseball for the community for another few decades.
Thank you so much for letting our listeners know how did we get to this place and how it came to council. Obviously, now we know more of the history. Now let's talk about this new agreement. This was a hot topic at council, and it's because we all love baseball here in Reno and we want it to stay. But can you explain to our listeners basically what the agreement's all about and why this is so important? Why is it a big deal for Reno?
Most communities of our size don't have the opportunity to have a AAA ball team. We're actually the second smallest market in the country that has a major league sport of this size. So the importance of baseball in our community is something that really can't be underestimated. When we started this process, as I mentioned, there's a misalignment between when the Aces were set to expire of their operations, their requirements in 2029, and when the lease on the stadium ended, which is in 2043. That misalignment could really leave us with a financial obligation and what we call a stranded asset. This means that the city would end up owning an aged facility of the stadium with no revenue source to come in to fix on the capital improvement or the maintenance needed, which really, with no professional ball team, is a negative impact for taxpayers. So we knew that we needed to fix that. This agreement helps to not only create that misalignment and correct it, this actually extends the Aces for our community for another 20 years. This guarantees a non-relocation from the team, which is a significant thing for our community. On top of that, the ownership, the Simon family, they are committing to investing $40 million in capital investment in and around the stadium. So it's really a win-win for our residents and Reno.
Totally, and it's great to hear that the Aces will be here for many more years. I want to go back to the money. Obviously, $40 million is a nice chunk of change. One could say that you could buy a lot of hot dogs and peanuts with that money, but we know it's not for the snacks. That $40 million, you said capital investment in and around the stadium. What kind of investments are we talking about here?
These investments will be improvements to the stadium and can also include things like additional retail, office, hotels, and more in the downtown area. The goal of the capital investment is really about making downtown even more vibrant. They're obligated to complete at least 50% of that investment within 5 years and 100% within 10 years. So there's real accountability built into this agreement, whereas the previous one, we didn't have that option.
That's good to hear too, because, we keep talking about wanting to keep downtown Reno more vibrant. We're here for the good vibes. We want to keep the good vibes, and the Aces really do keep those vibes there. So now I want to kind of break down, going back to the agreement, is there any sort of protections for the city if things don't go as planned? Can you kind of talk about that?
That's a great question, and the answer is yes. We understood the importance of building in protections for taxpayers, so we made sure that we negotiated some really strong protections into this term sheet. If the Aces fail to meet their commitments, whether it's through the relocation or these investment milestones or stadium maintenance, the city has what we call a clawback provision. Essentially what that means is that the stadium and the land would revert back to the City of Reno ownership. We also built in something called a home run provision, which means if they sell the stadium for profit within the first 5 years, the city will get a share of that value. It's yet another protection for taxpayers, so they're not able to flip that property immediately for profit without sharing in that windfall for us.
That's good to know. And a home run provision, definitely in the theme of baseball, it sounds like we are hitting it out of the park, you could say. So we just went over the agreement and the complexity of the deal, lots of history and impact, but let's talk a little bit about what impact the Aces has on our local community. We're there for some great baseball, but there has to be probably a little bit more impact than that.
That's exactly right. Reno is a really unique market, and with that, we've had the Aces for so many years now. I think that we sometimes forget about the incredible economic impact of having a AAA stadium right in our downtown. The Aces actually bring in hundreds of thousands of people every year downtown through baseball, other activations. I'm sure many of our listeners were able to come to Home for the Holidays over the season, and that really brought down hundreds of families into our core in what we call the shoulder season, when special events are not typically happening. They also currently support more than 500 local jobs and generate more than $8 million in labor income. They're contributing nearly $22 million in annual spending in our community. If we don't have that AAA team, those are jobs and money that we do not have coming into our community. This helps support businesses downtown. People come in for a baseball game, they stop at a restaurant, people come in and stay at hotels, visit our shops. Additionally, the team has invested more than $10 million in the stadium for improvements since 2022. They're really committed partners, and we're very grateful for the relationship and continued partnership.
So Ashley, does that mean that we'll have the Aces baseball downtown for many future generations?
Yes, I'm proud to say that with this 20-year extension, we're locking in AAA baseball through 2049. Future generations of Reno families can come and catch a game at Greater Nevada Field, say hi to Archie, grab an ice cream, and enjoy a summer evening downtown. The continued relationship with the Reno Aces is a wonderful asset to our entire community, and we're really looking forward to the renewed investment from the Simon family.
We love it, and I was talking about snacks earlier, and I do love a little baseball ice cream, the one that comes in the upside down hat with the sprinkles in it. I'm sure people love the snacks, love baseball. We're so happy that we were able to bring this to council and get it accepted. Ashley, thank you so much for breaking this down for us, and I'm sure we'll have you on the podcast again sometime.
Thanks so much for having me.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Before you hit pause, we're not done yet. We do have another council meeting on deck, so before we sign off, Norma, can you please give us a preview of what to expect at the next council meeting?
Thank you, Victoria. Of course, the next council meeting is February 11th, and of course, we are scheduled for another full agenda. Here's a few highlights. Council will look at accepting the final 2026 Community Wildfire Protection Plan, also known as the CWPP, to guide wildfire mitigation efforts in the City of Reno surrounding wildfire interface, also known as the WUI. Council will hear an update from the Truckee River Flood Management Authority on their annual capital improvement projects within the City of Reno, and also a presentation from the Downtown Management Company regarding marketing and operation of the downtown ballroom.
Well, thank you so much, Norma, for the preview. And if you want to learn more about the Reno Aces Stadium Agreement or any of the items from the January 28th meeting, check out reno.gov/meetings for full staff reports, agendas, and video recordings. And that is officially the end of our podcast. Thank you for pressing play, and we hope you can listen to us next time.